The Ginetta Junior Championship, powered by Sunoco Race Fuels, powers into the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit for its second event of the season. After an entertaining 3 races at Donington Park a few weeks ago, the championship continued yesterday with their first of 3 races at the home of British Motor Racing, and they've got 2 more 20-minute encounters to entertain us with over the course of today. The Lewis Goff steamroller continued yesterday with another race victory, but by a fairly narrow margin. Race-long pressure from Harry Bartle, and in fact, Harry Bartle was able to get ahead of Lewis Goff to claim the lead at times in that race, the first laps that Lewis Goff hadn't led all season long. What will happen in race number 2? Well, the sizable Silverstone crowd is waiting with bated breath to find out. Those at the top of the BRDC clubhouse building have a grandstand view of one of the action hotspots here on what is a driver's favourite circuit. It's fast, it's flowing, it's wide open. There are 2 or 3 really long straights leading into really big braking zones, which is perfect for these very slipstream dependent Ginetta G40s. And it's always been one of the most exciting events on the calendar for Ginetta Juniors. A long lap as well, 3.66 miles. They don't get as many laps in, but each lap is absolutely crammed with opportunities to race each other. The crowd gathered down there towards Maggots Beckett's. They've also got a great view of one of the most iconic sequences of corners in not just British motorsport, but world motorsport. And these Ginetta Junior drivers, one of the great appeal of coming to race in Ginetta Juniors is that you get to come and race at some of the best circuits that the United Kingdom has to offer. This, of course, the home of British Motor Racing, the home of the British Grand Prix, but over the course of the season, the championship will take them the length and breadth of the UK. From here they head to Alton Parks, very tight and technical and undulating international circuit, then Croft up in the northeast for the Ginetta Festival, 4 races that weekend for Ginetta Juniors. They then make a trip abroad to Zandvoort before coming back to the UK for the final 3 rounds, all part of the British GT package at Snetterton, Donington Park and the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit to conclude things in September. A championship that has an enormous list of hugely successful drivers who have claimed titles in Ginetta Juniors, and who I wonder will be the next driver to add their name to the winners list. The first championship back in 2005 won by Toby Newton, and since then the likes of Dino Zamparelli, Tom Ingram, British Touring Car champion Seb Morris, Jack Mitchell, JB Caroline and others have gone on to win the championship. Last year, of course, it was Red Bull Junior driver Rocco Coronel who claimed the title. Well, this year's Red Bull Junior has been having a little bit of a tougher start to the season. Melvin Clusian was 6th yesterday in the Red Bull liveried R Racing car, and would quite like to follow in the winning footsteps of his teammate Lewis Goff, who claimed R Racing's 100th win in the championship last time out at Donington Park, but has a bit of work to do if that's going to happen. I think everyone has some work to do if they're going to beat the dominant Lewis Goff, who did a few races last year in Ginetta Juniors. I don't believe he did a full season. No, debuted with us at Brands Hatch and was fairly quickly finishing in the top 5. In fact, got his first top 5 finish at Croft. His only top 5 finish at Croft at the next event, but was then consistently top 10 for the remainder of the year. And with most of our front-running drivers from last year moving on to other things, I think Harry Bartle is the highest-placed returning driver from the championship last year. Well, he was 12th in points, which shows what a high turnover we've had in drivers for the 2026 season. But that's the nature of the beast, I suppose. It's a junior category. It's that entry level for teenagers to get themselves into the world of motorsport and go on from here to have successful careers, they hope, in either single-seaters, GT, touring car racing. It's a perfect platform to kickstart your racing career. Well, Lewis Goff has kick-started his season in perfect fashion, but he doesn't start from pole position today. Harry Bartle will start from pole with Lewis Goff alongside him. Daniel Oliver and Jacob Ashcroft make up the all-elite motorsport row 2, with Jesse Phillips, the Ginetta Winter Series champion, starting 5th alongside Harrison Mackie. Riley Cranham and Noah Young share the 4th row, whilst Max Murray and Henry Carter complete the top 10. Then it's Henry Cameron with Kai Veach on row number 6. Row 7 then for Devon Hagelin and Melvin Kaluzdian. Kaluzdian well down the order, should move forward from there. Vladislav Tomanchuk is next with Sebastian Lusch on row number 8. Addison Smith and Vicky Farfus on row 9 with Jorn Helder and Dominic Darling on the 10th row together. And it's Andrew Robinson with Bailey Doughty, who was a rookie podium finisher, I seem to recall, yesterday. Pierce Wade and Ethan Brass on row 12, with Oscar Stockley-King and Samuel Del Gordio, row 13. Row 14 for Anisu Mafumulu with Josh Watts starting 28th. Josh should definitely move forward from there. Jake Woods brings up the rear. It's a 29-car grid. We had the biggest ever grid of 29 cars for the season opener a few weeks ago. And great to see the Ginetta Junior Championship continuing to go from strength to strength, and all managed now by SRO as well, the Ginetta Championships, and formed a partnership with SRO in the British GT Championship a number of years ago, and really thrived ever since, certainly the juniors with their biggest grids ever, as I say. Harrison Mackie carries one of our onboard cameras. Harry Bartle we caught a glimpse of momentarily just now. As Harrison Mackie drives off the track coming out of Aintree. That's an interesting warm-up lap tactic. Not something you normally see. At the end of the race, yes, because the drivers like to drive offline and sometimes do drive off track to pick up some discarded rubber or bits of gravel maybe on the tyres. It all helps to guarantee that you pass the ride height and weight checks post-race. It's a well-known trick that drivers have used for a long, long time. But on a warm-up lap, I'd say you want to be avoiding that. Harrison Mackie may be a little distracted as he went onto the Wellington Straight. Field then rounds Luffield. They'll line up on the grid. Staggered grid for Ginetta Juniors, not side by side, and not a rolling start as it is for the GT Championship we had out earlier on. Pink car there in the background, that's Vicky Farfus, whose father Augusto was for a long time a factory BMW driver in both touring car and GT racing. Vicky had an off-track excursion yesterday, I seem to recall. We'll be hoping to keep things on the island today. Some interesting headwear on show on the grid there among the grid marshals, as they try and keep the sun off them now a little bit. The sun just starting to break through, temperature climbing nicely as we move into the middle part of the day. Of course, the juniors will be back out again later on this afternoon for race number 3. That will be the penultimate race of the day at 10 to 5, so could be even warmer then. We expect dry, sunny conditions throughout the day. So cars then pull up into their starting positions. Harry Bartle for Pace Performance starts on pole on the outside of row 1, the grippier side of the road, and also the side of the road that allows you to carry the most momentum through Copse Corner. That's the theory anyway. Is that going to pay out for Harry Bartle? The revs rise, it's a short hold, away we go. And Harry Bartle does seem to launch off the line reasonably well from pole position. Is Lewis Goff going to be able to challenge though as they go through the gears? Well, more than challenge, he gets the lead away. So Lewis Goff immediately takes control of the race, and Harry Bartle has to settle in behind him. So it was a good initial launch, but getting out of first gear in these cars sometimes can be a bit clunky, and that maybe is what held Harry Bartle back there. He'll tuck into the slipstream though and try and challenge Goff down the back straight. The number 12 car is next, that's Daniel Oliver, except it's not, because up the inside comes his teammate Harrison Mackie, and there's contact and off they both go. The two Elite Motorsport drivers into the gravel at Chapel and out of the race potentially. That is a disaster for Elite, who in fairness have plenty of other drivers out there to fly the flag for them, but they were their two highest placed drivers, and that is not going to go down well at all. Another Elite driver there making a move up the inside, that's the number 11 of Henry Cameron, trying to slip past the 63 of Henry Carter. Two Henrys at play. They started side by side on the grid yesterday, I seem to recall as well. They're doing battle again in the early stages. Down to the club chicane we go for the first time. Lots of different lines being taken. Melvin Kaluzdian goes through in the Red Bull car. But yes, team principal at Elite Motorsport Eddie Ives is not going to be thrilled with what he's just seen on the opening lap. Elite, who have had so much success in this category, 23 championships in total across all Ginetta classes over the years for Elite, including 4 overall Ginetta Junior titles. But that run of winning came to an end abruptly in 2021 with the arrival of R Racing on the scene, and since then, no other team has won the championship. There's one of their drivers, Melvin Clustian, defending now, I think, actually, from Carter, as there, Bartle goes for the lead, gets to the inside of Lewis Goff at the loop, and is wanting to try and reclaim control of the race. He's got Jacob Ashcroft and Jesse Phillips behind. Well, Phillips is only ever going to try and help his teammate Lewis Goff, but Ashcroft is neutral in all of this, the Elite Motorsport driver. He just wants to try and get to the front if he can. He goes with Bartle down the Wellington Straight, and that little assistance was just enough to get Bartle the lead before the safety car is scrambled. So the safety car then out because of the I believe still 2 cars that are stuck down at the Maggots-Beckett's complex, and everything just comes back under control. So a timely move that from Bartle, who I think wanted to get that move done in the hope that then the likes of Ashcroft and Phillips would get involved too. A tow required for Harrison Mackey's car. Some replays at the start then. It was a good initial start for Bartle, but Goff definitely in the second phase was a bit stronger, dragged up ahead of the pace performance driver into Copse Corner. But keep an eye then to the cars behind, because, well, it was actually Jacob Ashcroft who was initially challenging Daniel Oliver. But then Harrison Mackey got involved, the 24 car, the second of the yellow and black cars, and as they came through Maggots and Beckett's, he saw an opportunity to get to the inside at Chapel, went for it, and yeah, lost the rear of the car, just carried a bit too much speed in on cold tyres, lost the rear, and they both ended up off the road. There wasn't really anything that Daniel Oliver could do about that. Harrison Mackey, I'm sure, did not intend to do that, and later on in the race that move might have worked, but he just asked a bit too much of those cold rear tyres. It snapped sideways on him, and he might have saved it had it not been for Oliver's car being to his left-hand side, but the two ended up clattering into each other. This was the Harrison Mackey view. You can see why he goes for it. He's carried more speed through the left-hander, sees a gap, but as soon as he gets on the curb, loses the rear. And what must have been going through his head as he lands in the gravel trap and has to stare into the eyes of his teammate Daniel Oliver as they sat in the gravel trap. Oh, to be a fly on the wall of that conversation that's going on down at the sidelines at Chapel. And I wonder whether they're just keeping their distance from each other or whether they are actively discussing how their races ended. Oh, in fact, they're not, because Daniel Oliver, I can tell you, got going and has retired to the pit lane. So Daniel Oliver heads in, and it's just Harrison Mackey's car that needs to be recovered from the sidelines. So Harry Bartle then, as I said, gets the lead, and he'll already be thinking about how he's going to handle this restart. What he really wants to do is steal an early march on Lewis Goff and hope that Lewis gets involved in the battles behind, and that might just allow Bartle to get away. That's sort of what Goff's tactic was in a couple of the races at Donington last time. Of course, not entirely left up to chance. Harry Bartle can try and manipulate the situation slightly, back the field up, catch Lewis Goff out. If he can keep the rest of the pack as closely bunched together as possible, that increases the chance that Lewis will then come under attack. Recovery operations ongoing down at Chapel, and a good opportunity to once again extend our thanks to the marshals, who already have had a busy morning across now the 2 Ginetta races. We had a GB4 race earlier on that had multiple incidents as well, so lots of work for the marshals to do. But I'm sure they're all thoroughly enjoying themselves in the Silverstone sunshine. Harry Bartle will definitely be enjoying himself, because of course every lap now that goes by behind the safety car is less time than he has to worry about defending from Lewis Goff. The Harrison Mackey car is going to be out of the way within the next 20 seconds or so, but is that going to be too late a call to bring the safety car in? Normally the safety car lights go out at the beginning of Sector 4, which they're going into now. We haven't had any notification on the timing screen that the safety car's in this time, so although they know the lights are out, so the lights are out, it was a late call, but a good call, I think, because by the time the cars get around to that part of the circuit, the coast will very much be clear. And now Harry Bartle does have to execute this safety car restart. He's crawling down the Wellington Straight, and Lewis Goff latches onto his rear bumper. It's difficult to steal much of an advantage on a restart in these cars because they are limited to 100 brake horsepower. You don't have a lot of power at your disposal, and it means you can have quite a long reaction time. He has gone early, and well, in fairness, Lewis Goff didn't nail Brooklands there. He was a bit sideways coming off the curb, and there is a bit of daylight between the two cars. Jacob Ashcroft in third is closer to Lewis Goff than Lewis Goff is to Harry Bartle, but they're all well within slipstreaming range of each other. So I anticipate they'll end up pretty much bumper to bumper again before too much longer. Past the pits we go, and from Harry Bartle's rear view camera we can immediately see that slipstream taking effect. Look at that. That is just how powerful the tow is in these cars. Limited on power and not very aerodynamic either. That means the racing's always close, but that was a bit too close between Bartle and Goff. Contact at Cobb's corner, and that's going to open the door, is it, for Jacob Ashcroft to get involved. Goff goes to the outside into Beckett, gets his nose ahead, commits to the outside line. There's no grip on the dirty side of the road, but he's still there, slides over the curb. Bartle does not want to relinquish this lead, and he really wants Jacob Ashcroft to get involved here, get alongside Lewis Goff and put the championship leader down the order slightly. They're still door handle to door handle onto the hanger straight, and who is going to come out on top of this? What do the cars behind them do? Well, there's your answer. Jacob Ashcroft gives the push to Bartle, and now Lewis Goff is on the outside looking in. He gets well and truly freight trained down the back straight, and in fact that is Jesse Phillips moving up into second position now. So Goff is off the podium, and Phillips not only into third but now going for P2 as we head through the Vale. So really interesting stuff there. No one wanted to work with Lewis, did they? That's the problem when you assert yourself as the dominant driver early in the championship. No one else wants to go with you. That's now Noah Young coming up the inside for second position, and Lewis Goff might take advantage of this. They're 3 abreast into the second part of club. They might be 4 abreast by the time we get to Abbey, because Ashcroft's got the run now but elects not to go with it. Gives the push to Goff, who went from first to 5th to second in less than half a lap. Typical Ginetta Junior racing, really. Max Murray now, the number 17 car, jumps up to 4th position in this ever-changing battle pack. And they head into the village and loop complex of corners. This has got disaster written all over it. Melvin Kalustian joining in now. Look, getting to the inside of the number 18 car. That's Riley Cranham. Noah Young in the black and pink cars sort of appeared out of nowhere in this group. Noah started 8th, but I think did drop down the order early doors. Someone taking a very agricultural line through Aintree, one of the elite cars. Didn't quite spot who that was. Was it Hagelin? Yes, it was, wasn't it? Devon Hagelin, the number 8, goes grass tracking. Lewis Goff, though, is already back on the tail of Harry Bartle. Bartle, half a lap ago, would have been thinking, yes, I've got rid of him. I don't need to worry about Lewis Goff anymore. He sort of executed that defensive performance absolutely perfectly through the first sequence of corners, put Goff offline, left him hung out to dry down the hanger straight. And now by the end of the lap, they're even closer than they were at the start of it. In fact, I reckon, yes, Goff is going to have a go into Kopp's corner. I thought he was closing in enough to have a move into Kopp's. Is he going to take the lead back from Harry Bartle? Yes, he is. So Harry Bartle powerless in the end to stop Lewis Goff from charging through. But he will try now and get back alongside him on the run down into Maggots and Beckett's in a battle for the lead that's already led to a bit of traded paint in this race. Is there more at Beckett's? No, because Bartle has drafted straight back through again. Fascinating stuff. Oh, it's all kicking off in the background, look, with Melvin Kalustian wide. He's into the side of Noah Young, who can't save the car. Around he goes, and he's collected heavily by the 63 of Henry Carter. What a shame for Noah Young, who was having a brilliant drive up until that point. There was a tiny touch as they went through Maggots and Beckett's, and at that speed, that's all it takes to unsettle the car. And sadly, with the pack so closely bunched, it was almost inevitable that someone was going to collect him. Harry Bartle, meanwhile, defending his newly reacquired lead down at Stowe Corner from Lewis Goff. But Lewis just seems to have an answer, doesn't he, for everything that Bartle throws at him here. Absolutely neck and neck into the club chicane. Does Goff go right round the outside? No. Tucks back in behind. Keeps his powder dry and tries to focus on a good exit. And how's that for a good exit? That was a perfect view of a perfectly executed switchback manoeuvre. And that little trading of position has very much brought Jacob Ashcroft and Max Murray and Jesse Phillips into play. Now remember, the second and third of those drivers that I called out are both our racing drivers, teammates of Lewis Goff. Yes, they're all out there to try and win for themselves, but I'm absolutely certain that team principals Jamie Ross and Nathan Reed have hammered home the point that they should work together where possible. And if they can get into a position where they can help Lewis, I'm sure that's what they're going to try and do. Outside line for Bartle at the loop. Ashcroft gets the overlap. Is he going to get through a Daintree corner? Answer no. But Jesse Phillips is working on getting past his R-Racing teammate Max Murray. And picks up a bit of a slipstream from Ashcroft as well. That should seal the deal as they head down the Wellington Straight. No news of a safety car, by the way, so I reckon maybe the cars that went off down at Beckett's have been able to continue, which is remarkable given the damage that was sustained, or at least get themselves to a relative place of safety. The race continuing then uninterrupted for now. 8 minutes left on the clock, and it's a five-way battle for the lead. Max Murray back to the inside of Jesse Phillips as they come through the final corner. And does manage to find a way back through the 2025 Ginetta Winter Series champion Phillips. Hearing that they did get back underway, the cars that were off down at Beckett, so a remarkable showing of the strength of these Ginetta G40s. Lots of panel damage maybe, but internally they were at least healthy enough to drag themselves out of the way. So good news, race continues on as we approach the 2/3 race distance, but this is already the most competitive race we've had so far this year. We've had battles for victory at Donington between the likes of Goff and Bartle, for example, but never really more than a two-way fight for the win. Yesterday's race, of course, was a head-to-head between the two of them. And Bartle made the interesting decision to make his move approaching the start of the final lap. He passed Goff at Brooklands on the last lap, which gave Lewis a whole lap then to find a way back through, which he did, went on to claim a 4th win from 4 races. This time, though, it becomes a little bit harder to make a sort of plan like that because there are 5 cars that you've got to factor into it, and every one of them will have an idea of how they want the end of this race to pan out. The papaya colours there on the McLaren Junior driver Jacob Ashcroft in 3rd position, who tries now to work out a way past Harry Bartle, who's trying to do the same thing to Lewis Goff. He cuts to the inside for the second part of Club. This is going to slow them both down massively. There's contact. Goff's in the gravel. Lewis Goff through the gravel, exiting Club corner. He'll continue on his way, but will plummet down the order. And now he really does face an uphill struggle if he's going to claim win number 5. Ashcroft gets the lead. So neither Bartle or Goff came out of that with the advantage. It is the Elite Motorsport driver, the only Elite Motorsport driver in this lead group, who comes out of all of that on top. Max Murray goes 2nd, Phillips goes 3rd, and Harry Bartle now tries to undo some of the damage done down at Club Corner. Sweeps to the outside of Phillips. That buys him a ticket to the inside line at the loop, and he moves back into 3rd position. Forget what I said, though, about this being a 5-way fight for the lead. All of those shenanigans have brought another 3 or 4 drivers into play. One of them is Goff in that 2nd group, so Lewis Goff not completely out of the running. In fact, he's in 5th position now as they head down the Wellington Straight into Brooklands. Ashcroft defending there the lead with Murray 2nd, Bartle 3rd, Phillips 4th, Goff 5th, and that's Melvin Kalustian, I think, in the Red Bull car in 6th position. Yes, it is. And we've also got the 11 of Henry Cameron, and I think the 18 car of Riley Cranham. So this is now an 8-car battle for victory with 5 minutes left on the clock. Jacob Ashcroft then heads into Copse Corner, defending the race lead. Jacob, who's had 1 podium finish this year, that coming yesterday at 3rd place in race number 1. He did gain quite dramatically on Harry Bartle and Lewis Goff as they started really debating the race lead on the final lap. Now he is out in front, defending from this baying pack of Ginetta Junior drivers behind. Now, often it's said that you don't want to be in the lead of a Ginetta Junior race going on to the final lap. That wasn't the tactic displayed by Harry Bartle yesterday. But given the ferocity of the battling, you can't necessarily bet against the idea of another safety car. And if you do lose the lead and get a safety car at this point, you're not likely going to have a chance to get the lead back. There's a car off in the background. Up at Maggots and Beckett. We'll get back to that in a moment, though, because there's a big challenge here from Bartle, who sweeps around the outside of Max Murray to go maybe into 2nd place. So yes, I think he will make that move stick on the exit of Stowe. So Bartle to second, and now Jacob Ashcroft's got another driver to defend from. Here comes Goff to the outside of his teammates. Bails on that one as Bartle goes round the outside at the club chicane. Fantastic stuff, gets the inside for the right-hander and moves back to the front. Lewis Goff, meanwhile, is about to go from 5th to 3rd, I think, getting past both of his teammates. In fact, that's an all-our racing squabble now, with Melvin Kalustian closing in and getting to the inside, heading past the Silverstone wing. So Harry Bartle back to the lead, but it won't be long, I don't think, before Lewis Goff is back in the conversation again. In fact, give it a couple of corners and he might well be challenging for first place again. Here they come into Village. There is Goff on the outside, who might well have something to say to Harry Bartle if and when he catches him. Kalustian's into 4th, and there's a big bottleneck at Village, which opens the door for Henry Cameron's Elite Motorsport car to sweep past them all. Ashcroft to the inside of Bartle. It really is a job to keep up with all of this. It's side by side for the lead, and what's the betting that Lewis Goff has the first position by the time we get to Brooklands Corner, because the leading two are really delaying each other. Cameron ends up shuffled onto the grass by Kalustian, and here comes Lewis Goff, 3 abreast for the race lead, and he's got his nose in front before the braking zone. Lewis Goff, can he go back to the front of the pack? Yes, he can. He clears Jacob Ashcroft's car through the left-hander at Brooklands. What a comeback drive this has been from Lewis Goff, who had things relatively his own way at Donington Park, but this weekend has properly had to get his elbows out. Cameron through the gravel trap at Luffield. I wouldn't worry, though, about that too much, Henry, because it was only a lap and a half ago that Lewis Goff was in the gravel at Club and down to about 8th position. He already leads again, but I doubt he's going to be able to get away. Again, the power of the slipstream around this track in these cars is going to make it almost impossible to make any sort of a break, I suspect. It is a 3-car breakaway for now, with Goff, Ashcroft and Bartle about a second clear of the next group of cars, but the next group of cars is led by 3R Racing drivers in Jesse Phillips, Max Murray and Melvin Kalustian. In fact, 4 of them now, because Riley Cranham got ahead of Henry Cameron there. And so if those 4 can work together, there's no reason why they can't catch the 3 out in front. So down the hanger straight for what potentially is going to be the final time, I think. Didn't quite spot how long was left on the clock when they crossed the line, but I suspect it was less than 2 minutes 40, so possibly the last opportunity is coming up then for Jacob Ashcroft to make a pass. But where and when can he make it? And does Harry Bartle still have a part to play in all of this? Down through the Vale into the braking zone at Club. Ashcroft really does seem quite content just to sit behind Goff for now. He's got a couple of car lengths back to Bartle, and the last thing he wants to do is start battling with Goff and invite Bartle back into the battle. Time penalty, by the way, for car 52. That's Oscar Stockley-King well down the order, though. Track limits penalty. Nothing that's going to affect the leading contenders then as they turn into Abbey Corner for the final time. Bartle is very much with them. And the group of our racing cars behind aren't really catching, are they? So it's likely to be a 3-way shootout for the victory. Can Ashcroft find a way through? And he's busy defending now into Village. Takes a very tight line, but Lewis Goff has outbraked himself slightly. Ashcroft thinks about jinking to the inside, but that door is well and truly closed in his face. And as both Goff and Ashcroft go into the loop tight, that will hand the benefit to Harry Bartle, who gets a better exit than both of them. Nips up the inside of Ashcroft for second. He will now be in prime position to get the slipstream down the Wellington Straight. We're on board with Bartle, who desperately, desperately wants to end this winning streak from Lewis Goff, who is currently 3 corners away from a 5th win from 5 races. Bartle jinks to the outside, to the inside. He's got the inside line. There's a bit of contact at the apex, but Bartle goes through. Fantastic racing. Harry Bartle into the lead. He's given a helping hand from Lewis Goff into Luffield Corner. This is going to be a drag race to the line. We've seen already how powerful the slipstream is. We might need to prepare the photo finish camera because Lewis Goff is in the tow. He'll pull out of the tow at the last second. Can he get there? It's almost going to be side by side, but Harry Bartle just hangs on by 73 thousandths of a second to claim the victory and stop Lewis Goff's winning streak at 4 wins in a row. Harry Bartle gets the job done, but that was all-out warfare at times between the two of them. This is how close it was. I said the slipstream would be enough to get Goff at least back in contention, but he just needed another few feet in order to drag level and indeed ahead of Harry Bartle, who judged that to perfection. He was 3rd going into the loop, and he was leading by the time we got to the line. It was a brilliant move as well shades of Dan Harper from the Silverstone 500 a few years ago when he sold the dummy from the outside to the inside into Brooklands corner. And there was just about a Ginetta G40-sized gap on the inside for Bartle to slip through. There was a bit of contact on the way through. That seemed fair enough to me. Jesse Phillips, by the way, has picked up a track limits penalty on the last lap, so he set the fastest lap on the last lap of the race as well, 2:38.8, about half a second quicker than anyone else had been. But that won't help him much. He drops to 8th position on corrected times. Well, I'm intrigued to see how Lewis Goff and Harry Bartle are with each other after that race, because I know the little collision they had on the final lap was largely a racing incident, but they did have that contact here at Club Corner, didn't they, earlier on? Lewis, in fact, pulling up alongside Harry Bartle. Is he communicating to the driver with whom he did battle? Didn't see any rude gestures from inside the number 4 car, but it's not to say that he's not thinking it. I'm sure he wouldn't have appreciated being levered aside, but we'll wait and see if the stewards have anything to say about it. For now, it is Harry Bartle who claims the race victory. Bartle the winner by 73 thousandths of a second in the closest finish of the year so far over Lewis Goff. Jacob Ashcroft on the podium in 3rd ahead of Max Murray, with Melvin Cluesdian getting himself into the top 5 that time. Then it was Henry Cameron and Riley Cranham, with Jesse Phillips picking up that 5-second penalty, only 8th on corrected times ahead of Addison Smith. And Josh Watts, who came through from 28th on the grid to net a top 10 finish. Strong stuff. Johan Helder was 11th ahead of Vladislav Tomanchuk and Devon Hagelin, with Bailey Doughty, Kai Veach, Dominic Darling, Andrew Robertson, Ethan Brass, Pierce Wade and Jake Woods completing the top 20. Vicky Farfus was 21st ahead of Aniso Mafumalo, with Noah Young and Sebastian Lisch next. Then it was Oscar Stockley King, Daniel Oliver and Samuel Del Gordio, the last of the finishers. Henry Carter was a retiree, as, of course, in dramatic fashion, was the Elite Motorsport driver Harrison Mackie. So a dramatic second race of the weekend for the Ginetta Junior Championship. Let's take a look back at some of the highlights. Round number 5 of the Ginetta Junior Championship, powered by Sunoco Race Fuels, was by far the most competitive race of the season so far. It was Harry Bartle who started on pole position, but surprise, surprise, it was the undefeated Lewis Goff who got to the lead into the first corner. Lewis, though, would have a real fight on his hands if he was to continue that winning streak. The first 4 races all won by Lewis. Elite Motorsport took a couple of their drivers out of contention, though, when Harrison Mackie tangled with his teammate Daniel Oliver, and they both ended in the gravel trap. That led to a brief safety car period. We avoided a second one, though, after there was contact between Melvin Cluesdian and Noah Young, and unfortunately there was nothing in the end that the 63 car of Henry Carter could do to avoid clattering into Noah. Thankfully, though, those cars were able to get themselves out of the way, and the race continued with Lewis Goff and Harry Bartle trading the lead on numerous occasions and bringing into the equation plenty of other drivers. This was a major talking point in the race, though. Bartle to the inside of Goff at Club Corner. There was a tiny touch between them. Goff dropped down as low as 8th position at that point, but steadily fought his way back into the lead group, and a lap and a half later was challenging for first position again. It was Jacob Ashcroft in the McLaren liveried car who then came up to challenge Bartle for the lead, and as they went side by side, Lewis Goff took full advantage, nicked to the inside of both of them, and only a lap and a half after being in the gravel at Club Corner, the 4-time race winner was back in first position. Would he stay there to the flag, though? That was the question. We all thought Jacob Ashcroft was the man most likely to challenge him, but he made a mistake at the loop on the final lap, and Harry Bartle came through before executing a textbook dummy move in the braking zone at Brooklands corner and levering aside Lewis Goff to take the lead. Goff had one last chance to slipstream alongside him at the line, but by 73 thousandths of a second, Harry Bartle held on to claim a first win of the year.